Hey guys, Bushcraft 412 here from Northeast Survival and Preparedness. You know what? Sometimes we have the best of intention, but sometimes things just go wrong. In this video, I want to show you how to fix some common problems that you're going to have while hanging an axe. Now, I was hanging this, I was basically putting together a house axe, which is a 19-inch handle with a full-size axe, very similar to a miner's axe, but for one-handed use. Well, in the process of doing it, I chipped the handle, pretty good chip out of the end, and instead of just throwing the handle away and starting over, I decided to make a video out of this to show you guys ways to fix some common problems, because in reality, you know, sometimes we're just not going to be able to go and order a new handle. You know, something may happen, we may not have money, you know, there may not be power, who knows what the future lies, and knowing how to fix some of these common problems to extend the life of an axe is really important. Now, number one, let's just say safety. Guys, always be sure you're doing these things safely. When you're fixing an axe, make sure it is done right, because if you do not and you use an axe in the condition that this one right here is in, you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt someone else. 3.5 pounds of sharp steel flying through the air never ends well. So with that, you know, bear in mind that if you do take these shortcuts, you are kind of compromising the safety of the axe. So you really should hang them the correct way every time. But you know what? In an emergency situation, this is something that it helps to know. Okay, so we got this axe. And what happened while driving it in to the head? As you can see, I chipped off the handle, which to me is just unacceptable. So I glued it back on, and of course I did not glue it with a clamp, because I wanted to do everything kind of wrong to show you the wrong way. But this is pretty much like what an old timer would have done back in the day: store a little wood glue, you know, wrap a shop rag around it and hope it lasts. And then when it failed, what's he going to do? How's he going to solve this problem? Duct tape. Back in the old days, you always saw axe handles with duct tape wrapped around them, because they've got a split like this and the person didn't glue it properly. So what did they do? Just really tightly wrapped some duct tape around it to solve the problem. So that's exactly what we're going to do here, is we're going to wrap some duct tape around it, just like the old timers would. And guys, you've probably seen, I know you've seen a million axes like this over the years, where somebody's just taken a little bit of duct tape and covered up a splinter on the end like that. Now, a splinter on the end of the handle, is it going to make the axe unsafe? Maybe not, but you have to bear in mind, guys, if that crack runs further up the axe, if it runs along the grain further, you could have just a complete catastrophic failure of that handle. But a little chip like this, you can get away with gluing it, you know, and in this case it's glued and taped. Will it last? Maybe. But, like I said, this is something you do in a pinch. You're out in the woods and you have a failure, not something you should do for an axe that you want to be safe. You know, if you're in a survival situation, I would have no problem taping an axe up to make it through. So take everything with a grain of salt. Okay, the next mistake I made, rather intentionally, you can see there's a rather large shelf dug into this handle where I hung the head. I kind of, once after I chipped it, I just kind of said, you know what, I'm going to stop fitting it and just force the head on. So you can see there's a very deep shelf there. So basically the axe is kind of on that shelf and not fully on. As you can see, this is not done right. It's not even coming up out of the top of the axe. The wedge is in there goofy. I just really cobbed this together just to show you how to fix this. Now, the best way to fix this is you're going to have to hammer the head out. And guys, I'm not going to do this because my kid is sleeping and I don't want to wake him up with all the hammering. So please understand that, you know, I kind of got to work with what I got here. So what you're going to want to do, take this axe head, put it into a vise. And you have two options. One is you can take a rather large punch and hammer that handle back down 1 centimeter or 2. Or you can use something which I find works really good for this, is just one of these little tack hammers. They're really good. You can just get in there, hammer that out, give it some good whacks, and what you want to do is give yourself about 1 centimeter above that shelf where you can get in there and reshape the handle. And what you're going to do is basically get rid of that shelf, smooth it out, and thin out the handle so that you can put this axe the rest of the way down. And you're going to do that with a rasp or a file or your pocket knife or sandpaper, whatever you got. Get rid of this shelf, get rid of this little curly cue of wood here, and smooth that all out so that when you redrive this back in, it will fit on properly, not recessed like this. This actually right here, guys, is very dangerous. If your axe looks like this and the handle is recessed like that, very dangerous. You're not fully wedged in there. This thing could come flying off with a couple of hard whacks. This is something you have to fix. So like I said, get yourself a tack hammer, put it in a vise, give yourself boom, 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 knock that through. You'll create a little bit of space in here, knock that down, smooth it out, and then redrive your handle into the eye. And of course, properly wedge it with a wood and steel wedges if that's your choice. So that is how you fix that. It's actually relatively easy and a quick process. The only thing that's going to hold you back is if you maybe epoxy the handles to the head, but even then, usually a couple real good whacks with a hammer will break that loose. And the third thing we're going to fix is gaps in the axe. These are typically more cosmetic than anything. So these are something that's okay to fix and it really won't hurt the aesthetics of an axe. So as you can see, there's a rather large gap right here on the front. And what you want to look for is you never want gaps on your sides. Front and the back are okay, never on the sides. So this one here, it fits good on the sides, but there's a huge gap there. And of course on the underside, there's a little gap there as well. Now those of course can be fixed very easily one of a couple of ways. One is you can just take some wood chips or some wood shavings and put them into that hole with some wood glue. Just run of the mill, 99-cent Harbor Freight wood glue. Mash up a bunch of sawdust or shavings, jam it in that hole with a toothpick, let it harden, and it will make a really good, kind of almost like a wood putty for you. And if you've been fitting your axe, you're going to have sawdust from where you were fitting it. Take that, mix it with some wood glue, jam it in that hole with a toothpick or a needle or whatever you can get. In this case, I'm going to show you the cheater way, which is pretty much what modern manufacturers do. You have to bear in mind, guys, that they often just hydraulically fit these axe heads to the handles, and they're going to get a shelf like this big time. And lots of times that's going to create a lot of wiggle in their axes. So what do these guys do to save a couple of bucks? Epoxy. So what do? Get yourself some expanding epoxy, something that's really decent, and just put yourself, hopefully we'll get this, put just a couple of drops in there because it will expand. And you can also put a little along the head of the axe as well. Sorry guys, bad camera work here, because it will soak into the end grain of the wood, and being this stuff expands, it will soak into the end grain of the wood and really make the wood expand and seal this into the handle really good. Now once again guys, not the brightest idea, because you do not have enough of a wedge without coming through the top to make this safe. So we got some in there. We're going to put a drop down here, make sure I'm in the frame, to fill up this gap. And this also, guys, will help weatherproof your axe. So if you are out in bad conditions, this will sorry, it was a crummy camera work, guys. Doing this stuff alone is a pain. I really should recruit someone to help me. So we'll let that sit, And what's going to happen here, guys, is, see if I can zoom out. Okay, this axe head is going to suck up this glue. And this glue takes about an hour to dry. So I'm going to come back in about 10 minutes. And this axe head should have sucked in all that glue. And I'm going to put some more in there. And some more in this little gap. And what's going to happen is, this is going to create like a complete and total solid block of epoxied wood in there. And it will be, I'm telling you guys, damn near impossible for me to get this axe head off, which I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm really creating a ton of work for myself for when I rehandle this, but I just kind of wanted to show you in a survival situation, this is what I would do to survive. If I didn't have another axe handle, if I didn't have 3-4 hours to carve a new one, and I needed an axe today to get wood to keep my family warm because it's 10 at night, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to dump a boatload of epoxy in there, let the end grain soak it up, and this thing will live to chop another day. Is it going to be safe? Absolutely not. Remember, guys, doing this, not very safe. Will it temporarily fix your problem in a survival situation? Absolutely. So there you go, guys. Some common axe problems. Like I said, you can also take any amount of wood chips or sawdust and jam it into that gap to fill it for cosmetic purposes. But being that this epoxy expands, I'm not going to mess with it too much because it's going to actually come bubbling out of the hole in like 10-15 minutes. So there you go, guys. Some simple, stupid fixes. I'm going to order a new handle from Handle House and rehandle this next week. But just wanted to show you some quick, easy fixes. And this is what happens when you don't do it right the first time. So I got a bunch of work for myself, so I'm going to get on House Handle Company and order a new one. Hope you guys enjoyed.